The first time I noticed something was off, I was standing in my garage at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday, staring at my home battery display like it had personally betrayed me. The screen showed 23% charge. Yesterday, before I'd gone to bed, it had been at 94%. I rubbed my eyes and checked again. Still 23%. My solar panels had generated plenty of power the day before. The Arizona sun doesn't mess around in June, and I hadn't run anything unusual overnight. No air conditioning surge, no forgotten appliances. Just a normal baseline drawer of a sleeping house. That's impossible, I muttered, pulling up the energy monitoring app on my phone. The graphs told a story that made my stomach drop. Starting at 11:47 p.m., there'd been a massive power draw, not from inside my house, from my external outlet, the outlet I'd installed on the outside wall of my garage for occasional use, the one connected to my solar battery system. I stepped outside into the already warm morning air and walked around to the side of my garage. That's when I saw it, a bright orange extension cord, thick as a garden hose, snaking across my driveway, over the decorative rock border, across the sidewalk, and directly into my neighbor's garage. My new neighbor, Catherine Pemberton, president of the Shadow Ridge HOA. Catherine had moved in 3 months ago, right after the Johnsons relocated to Oregon. Within 2 weeks, she'd sent me a violation notice about my trash cans being visible from the street. They were behind a fence, but you could see them if you stood at a specific angle and really tried. Within a month, she'd called an emergency HOA meeting to discuss my unauthorized solar panel installation, panels that had been approved and installed 2 years before she'd even moved to the neighborhood. She drove a white Tesla Model Y with a license plate that read ECOQEN. Yes, with that spelling. I'd assumed it was intentional irony. Now I wasn't so sure. I followed the extension cord with my eyes, then followed it with my feet. It ran straight into her garageware, and I had to blink to make sure I was seeing this correctly. It was plugged into a charging adapter connected to her Tesla. She was charging her $60,000 electric vehicle with my solar power. My solar power that I'd spent $32,000 installing. My solar power that I was still making payments on. My solar power that was supposed to be reducing my electric bill and my carbon footprint. I stood there for a full minute, feeling my blood pressure rise with the morning temperature. Then I pulled out my phone and took pictures. Lots of pictures. The extension cord, the connection point at my outlet, the path across the properties, the Tesla charging port with my orange cord plugged in. Then I unplugged it. I was pouring my second coffee when my doorbell rang at 7:45 a.m. I knew who it would be before I opened the door. Catherine stood on my porch in full HOA President regalia, a blazer despite the heat, a clipboard, and an expression that suggested I'd personally kicked her dog. "You unplugged my car," she said. "Not a question. An accusation. I unplugged my electricity from your car. I corrected, keeping my voice level. The electricity you were stealing." Her face flushed. "Stealing? That's a very serious accusation. Marcus, I'm simply utilizing available resources in the community." Available resources. I let that hang in the air for a moment. You plugged into my private electrical outlet without permission and drained my battery system overnight. Your outlet is on the outside of your house, she said, as if this explained everything. Community aesthetics require external outlets to be accessible for neighborhood beautification projects and emergency usage. Show me that in the HOA bylaws. She flipped through papers on her clipboard with theatrical precision. Article 7, Section 12, Subsection D. All homeowners shall maintain accessible utility connections for common area maintenance and emergency neighborhood needs. That's for water spigots during drought emergencies, I said. I'd actually read our HOA bylaws, unlike most people, and it requires written notice and approval. You didn't ask. You just took. I'm the HOA president. I don't need to ask permission to access community resources. It's not a community resource. It's my private solar installation connected to my private battery system that I paid for with my private money. She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Solar installations that feed back to the grid are community assets under our sustainability guidelines. I helped draft those guidelines myself. My system doesn't feed back to the grid. It's completely self-contained. Her smile faltered for just a second. Then it returned, sharper. We'll see what the HOA board says about your uncooperative attitude. I'm calling an emergency meeting for Friday night. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking on my walkway with the rhythm of a countdown timer. I spent the rest of Tuesday installing a lockable outlet cover and a security camera pointed directly at the outlet. Wednesday, I spent reviewing my solar system capabilities and making some interesting discoveries about its maximum output settings. Thursday morning, I woke up to find Catherine's extension cord had returned. This time it was plugged into my front outdoor outlet, the one I use for Christmas lights, and that outlet was now destroyed. She'd forced a connection so hard she'd cracked the housing. The security camera had caught everything. Catherine, at 6 a.m., with a screwdriver and pliers, literally prying open the lockable cover I'd installed on the garage outlet, finding it disabled, then moving to the front of my house and forcing her plug into that outlet instead. That's when I knew she wasn't going to stop. That's when I decided to make sure she'd remember why stealing electricity is a bad idea. Friday afternoon, I made my preparations. I called my solar installation company and had a very interesting conversation with their technical specialists about voltage optimization and surge capacity. I learned that my system, normally operating at a steady 240 volts, could be manually boosted to its maximum rated output of 277 volts for brief periods, well within code, well within safety parameters, but definitely not standard. I also learned that Tesla charging systems are designed to handle voltage fluctuations, but they really don't like being hit with maximum commercial-grade voltage when they're expecting residential power. They have safety cutoffs, but not before logging a whole bunch of error codes and potentially triggering some very expensive warning systems. I spent an hour on the phone with the tech, making absolutely sure that what I was planning wouldn't actually damage her car or create a fire hazard. I'm angry, not criminal. He assured me the Tesla systems would simply shut down the charging process with error codes. Lots of error codes. Why would you want to do this? He'd asked. Educational purposes, I'd replied. Friday evening, just before the HOA meeting, I set up my system for maximum voltage output. I repositioned my security cameras. I disabled the locks on my outlet covers but installed LED indicators that would show when power was flowing and at what level. Then I went to the HOA meeting. Catherine had clearly prepared for war. She had a PowerPoint presentation titled Community Energy Ethics and the Solar Selfishness Problem. There were graphs. There were highlighted bylaw sections. There was even a glossary defining terms like energy hoarding and sustainability obstruction. I sat quietly through 20 minutes of her explaining how my refusal to share my solar power was against the spirit of community cooperation and environmental responsibility. When she finally paused for breath, I raised my hand. I have a video I'd like to show, I said. I didn't wait for permission. I connected my laptop to the meeting room TV and played the security footage. Catherine approaching my house at 6 a.m. Thursday. Catherine with tools. Catherine forcing open my outlet. Catherine plugging in her extension cord. Catherine walking back to her garage with a satisfied smile. The room went silent. That's taken out of context, Catherine said, her face now matching her Tesla's paint color. There's more, I said, and played the footage from Wednesday night, and Tuesday night, and Monday night. 4 nights of theft, all documented, timestamps clear. Board member Susan Martinez spoke first. Catherine, is this true? Have you been stealing electricity from Marcus's house? Stealing is such an ugly word. It's also an accurate word, I interrupted, and it's illegal. I've calculated she's taken approximately 340 kilowatt hours over the past week. At my battery system's cost per kilowatt hour, that's about $140 in stolen electricity, enough for misdemeanor theft charges. The room erupted. Other board members started asking questions. Catherine tried to explain about community resources and sustainability sharing. No one was buying it. I let them argue for a few minutes. Then I checked my phone and smiled. If you'll excuse me, I said, I need to take this call. I stepped outside and called my own number, pretending to have a conversation for 60 seconds. When I came back in, I couldn't keep the grin off my face. Catherine, you might want to check your car. She pulled out her phone. Her face went through an impressive color journey, white to pink to red to purple. "What did you do?" she whispered. "I left my outlets unlocked tonight," I said cheerfully. "I figured if you wanted to use my electricity so badly, I shouldn't stand in your way. Of course, I also optimized my system for maximum voltage output. Well within code, well within safety parameters. Your Tesla's charging system didn't like it much, though. Based on those error codes you're seeing, I'd say you're looking at a full system diagnostic, maybe a warranty concern, and definitely a very expensive service visit." "You can't do that." "I can absolutely optimize my own electrical system on my own property," I said. "What I can't do is control who might plug into my exterior outlets without permission. That would be—" I paused for effect. "Theft." The HOA board voted unanimously to censure Catherine for conduct unbecoming of an HOA officer and referred the matter to police. Catherine resigned as president that night, unplugged her extension cord, and listed her house for sale within a week. The police report I filed didn't result in charges. The DA felt it wasn't worth prosecuting, but it's now on record. And my security footage has been backed up in about 17 different places. My solar battery is back to 94% every morning. My electricity bills remain wonderfully low. And my exterior outlets now have industrial-grade locks that would require a blowtorch to bypass. Sometimes, late at night, I sit in my garage and watch my battery display with a satisfaction that's hard to describe. The numbers glow steady and strong, charging from the Arizona sun, powering my home, and absolutely, definitely not powering anyone's Tesla. Well, except mine. I bought one last month. The license plate reads MY Watts.